Welcome to Homelessness Documentary.
On Homelessness Documentary, today's story begins in Michigan, where winter is not just a season, but a relentless force that defines life on the streets. In Michigan, more than 10,000 people are experiencing homelessness, and thousands of them face winter without stable shelter. As temperatures routinely drop below 20 degrees Celsius, 6 degrees, and often much lower during deep winter, sidewalk, park, and abandoned spaces become the only places to endure long, freezing nights. Snow, icy wind, and prolonged cold every hour outdoors into a test of physical and mental limits. By day, Michigan cities continue to function. Traffic moves, businesses open, life goes on. But beneath that routine is another reality. People layered in worn clothing, hands numb, bodies slowing down, carrying everything they own as they search for warmth that never lasts long. This film was created to document the reality of homelessness in extreme cold and to amplify voices that are often unheard. Stay with the video until the end, leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and share this story so these voices are not left out in the cold. What's happening right now? This is Homelessness Documentary, where we step into winter not as a season, but as a daily threat to survival. In Michigan, winter exposure is not a metaphor, it is measurable. According to the National Weather Service, average overnight temperatures in January regularly fall to 10 degrees Celsius, with wind chill pushing it below zero for days at a time. During the same period, the Michigan Point-in-Time Count 2024 recorded over 1,700 people sleeping unsheltered on a single winter night in Detroit alone, many without proper winter gear. Outreach workers report frostbite setting in within minutes for exposed skin, turning simple tasks, tying shoes, holding a cup, into painful struggles. When the ground freezes solid, people cannot rest. They curl tightly, waking every hour to keep blood moving, knowing that staying still too long can mean not waking up at all. For those living outside, the cold is not just uncomfortable, it drains the body and the mind. Local emergency departments note a sharp rise in cold-related injuries each winter, including hypothermia and frostbite among people without shelter, conditions that often lead to long-term damage. Blankets become stiff with ice. Wet socks never dry. Snow soaks into layers meant for daytime wear, not overnight survival. As shelters reach capacity, often before sunset, hundreds are left searching for wind-blocked corners under bridges or behind buildings. If you knew the night ahead could permanently damage your hands or feet, where would you choose to sleep? Snow hides suffering. Streets appear quiet, almost peaceful, while beneath that white cover are people fighting exhaustion, hunger, and fear at the same time. Parents worry about keeping children warm enough to sleep. Older adults fear their bodies will not recover from another frozen night. Many describe the cold as something that strips dignity first, forcing every thought towards survival instead of tomorrow. This is not an isolated moment. It is the reality of winter unfolding right now. And as Homelessness Documentary continues, we begin to see who is most exposed to this cold and why so many are left to endure it alone. If these realities reach you, staying with the story, through a like or a quiet subscription, helps keep these lives from disappearing into the snow while winter presses on. Children and youth on the edge. In Michigan, the weight of homelessness falls heaviest on children who never chose this life. According to the Michigan Department of Education, 2024, more than 28,000 students statewide are living without stable housing, many moving between shelters, cars, motels, or crowded homes of relatives. By day, they sit in classrooms trying to focus. By night, they wait quietly while parents decide where it is safe enough to. Some do homework under dim lights in cars. Others learn to fall asleep quickly because staying awake only brings more questions no one can answer. Outreach workers in cities like Detroit and Grand Rapids report hundreds of children experiencing unsheltered or emergency living situations each year, often during the coldest month. Parents describe driving late into the night so children stay asleep, parking near hospitals or stores for light and a sense of safety. These children don't understand housing shortages or rising rents. They only feel exhaustion, confusion, and the quiet fear of being told to move again. If you were that child, how would you explain to yourself why home keeps changing? Housing instability follows them into school. Studies from the National Center for Homeless Education showed children without stable housing are far more likely to miss classes and fall behind. not because they lack ability, but because survival consumes their energy. Teachers notice backpacks holding everything a child owns, and students who avoid talking about weekends because there is nothing steady to describe. Childhood becomes something to endure rather than enjoy. These children are not statistic. They are learning about the world through uncertainty, forming memories shaped by waiting rooms, borrowed spaces, and whispered conversations between adults. Their struggle is quiet, but its impact lasts long after childhood ends. As this story continues, what happens to them next will reveal how deeply housing instability reshapes a life. If these moments resonate with you, staying with the story and supporting Homelessness Documentary through a simple like or subscription helps ensure these children are not left unseen. When policies fail to keep up with reality. Michigan's support policies, crafted to offer stability, frequently lag behind the raw realities faced by families, creating unseen cracks that expose lives to further uncertainty. In Homelessness Documentary, we examine how these mismatches play out, such as with recent HUD funding adjustments paused by a judge on December 19, 2024, which could have displaced thousands more amid 2024's record national homelessness levels, quietly amplifying daily hardships for hundreds pushed onto streets or into temporary spots. Statewide, 8,136 individuals navigated instability in 2023. But a 12% surge in service demands by 2024 reveals resources stretching thin, unable to fully match the pace of rising needs. In Lansing, Pod City's ambitious plan, scaled to 45 units with delays into 2026 and $450,000 annual costs, prioritizes singles, often overlooking families on waitlists exceeding 4,500, leaving parents to juggle fragile balances. Kalamazoo's 2025 count of 791 unhoused, including 180 children, faces voucher queues over 6,000 long against a 195,000 unit statewide shortage, as median rents hit $1,450 and claim up to 60% of low-income paychecks, turning minor setbacks into major upheavals. Muskegon seniors, on average $1,250 pensions, endure 120-day delays in claims processing, echoing the quiet frustrations that build over time. Detroit's 305 outdoor sleepers, a number doubled in recent years, highlight policies leaning toward clearance rather than holistic options, nudging people deeper into hidden corners. Jackson's services, overwhelmed with 100-day mental health waits in an area seeing 55% count increases since 2021, perpetuate loops that affect Grand Rapids youth amid a 75% surge, where school supports fall short due to underfunding. These policy lags don't just delay aid, they quietly erode daily resilience, leaving families to adapt in ways that underscore life's unpredictability. If policies suddenly shifted your own security, what initial step would you take in that quiet moment? A gentle reminder that anyone might encounter this. Our shared role in aligning systems with real lives fosters a deeper sense of communal guardianship. There's more depth coming, a pivotal close that ties it together. If moved, like and subscribe to Homelessness Documentary to stay engaged. Roots of a broken map. Across Michigan, homelessness often begins at a kitchen table, not on the street. In 2024, data from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition showed that a minimum wage worker in Michigan would need to work nearly 90 hours a week to afford a modest 2-bedroom apartment at fair market rent. For families already living paycheck to paycheck, the math simply stops working. Rent gets paid, groceries get thinner, and one unexpected expense quietly pushes everything off balance. If your income couldn't stretch any further, which bill would you let slide first? While housing costs rise, wages across many Michigan counties have failed to keep pace. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics 2024, median hourly wages for service and retail workers remain under $16 an hour, while average rents in cities like Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor have climbed more than 7% year over year. This gap forces families into constant trade-offs: heat or medicine, rent or childcare. These are not reckless choices, but survival decisions made under pressure. How long can anyone live when every month demands a sacrifice? Michigan is facing a structural shortage that leaves families with nowhere to turn. The Michigan State Housing Development Authority estimates a deficit of more than 190,000 affordable rental units for low-income households statewide. When eviction happens, there is rarely another affordable option waiting. Shelters fill quickly, waitlists stretch for months, and people fall through gaps that were never designed to catch them. When housing simply doesn't exist at reachable prices, what path is left for someone trying to stay housed? For many families, homelessness is not triggered by a single event, but by several smaller crises stacking together. A car breakdown leads to missed work. Missed work leads to late rent. Late rent leads to eviction filings. Local outreach groups report that over 60% of newly homeless adults in Michigan experienced a recent job disruption or health issue before losing housing. These are ordinary setbacks that become life-altering when support arrives too late. If multiple small problems hit you at once, who would be there to steady you? What emerges is a broken map, one where effort does not guarantee safety, and where falling behind can happen quietly. Parents do everything they can to hold on, shielding children from the fear they themselves carry. These stories are not about blame, but about systems misaligned with real lives. As this story continues, a moment ahead will challenge how we understand responsibility and risk. If this perspective resonates, staying engaged and quietly supporting Homelessness Documentary through a like or subscription helps keep these realities visible as the journey moves forward. A state on the brink. By 2025, Michigan's homelessness crisis is no longer isolated to major cities. It has become a statewide strain where everyday systems are beginning to buckle. According to the Michigan League for Public Policy, 2024, nearly 58% of low-income renters across the state are now severely cost-burdened, meaning more than half of their income goes solely to housing. For hundreds of thousands of households, stability no longer comes from hard work alone, but from whether nothing goes wrong. When rent absorbs nearly everything you earn, how long could you hold on if just one paycheck disappeared? Behind the scenes, eviction has become one of the quiet engines pushing people toward homelessness. Court records from Michigan courts, 2024, show over 160,000 eviction filings statewide in a single year, many tied to rent increases after pandemic protections expired. Most of these families do not appear in shelter counts. They move from place to place, exhausting savings and favors before finally losing options. Each eviction filing represents a household forced into uncertainty long before the street ever enters the picture. If losing a lease can unravel an entire life, shouldn't that moment matter just as much as homelessness itself? While cities draw attention, rural Michigan faces a different kind of collapse. In northern counties and the Upper Peninsula, nonprofit reports show service gaps of 30-50 miles between shelters, leaving people without transportation effectively stranded. In 2024, regional outreach groups documented a 27% rise in unsheltered individuals in rural areas, many of them older adults living on fixed incomes that no longer cover rent and utilities. When help exists but cannot be reached, what choice is left for someone trying to survive a Michigan winter? As pressure builds, hundreds are quietly pushed into life on the margins, sleeping in cars, rotating couches, or staying in places never meant to be homes. Outreach workers describe parents parking near hospitals or stores for light and safety, children learning to stay quiet at night, and adults carrying a constant fear of being asked to move again. These are not people who gave up. They are people who ran out of room. If your entire life had to fit into what you could carry, what would you leave behind? What places Michigan on the brink is not collapse, but accumulation, rising rents, delayed assistance, eviction backlogs, and limited shelter access all tightening at once. This story has not reached its turning point yet. The pressure continues to build, and what happens next depends on whether these signals are recognized in time. As we move forward, there is a moment ahead that reframes everything we've seen so far. If this reality resonates, staying with the story and quietly supporting Homelessness Documentary through a like or subscription helps ensure these lives are not overlooked as the situation continues to unfold. The gap between communities and the homeless. In Michigan's neighborhoods, a quiet yet significant divide often separates those with stable homes from neighbors experiencing homelessness, built on everyday assumptions and overlooked opportunities for connection. As we explore in Homelessness Documentary, This gap is evident in West Michigan suburbs around Holland, where a metro population of 1.2 million leads to only 12% of residents volunteering at shelters, with many passing encampments and attributing the situation to personal choices, rather than life's unpredictable shifts that could affect anyone. This mindset quietly isolates hundreds more each year, their daily quests for a safe spot or a warm meal blending into the background, carrying unspoken weights that resonate with the fragility we all share. Veterans in Muskegon County, amid 176,000 residents, exemplify this disconnection, finding rest on park benches, while community surveys show 45% of locals approaching with hesitation, reducing outreach like sharing resources or offering conversations. In Ypsilanti, a town of 20,000 where poverty impacts 26%, local events rarely include those without addresses, allowing families to couch surf invisibly. Their struggles a mirror to what any of us might encounter after a sudden setback like job loss or illness. Faith-based programs provide around 550 meals weekly, serving as vital support, but recent polls reveal 35% avoid them due to fears of judgment, further deepening the quiet hardships that echo through these communities. Flint's narratives, with poverty at 39%, highlight how former coworkers can fade from view overnight. Their stories a reminder of stability's thin edge. Efforts in Dearborn use apps to connect volunteers to 350 beds nightly, offering hope, but rural participation at 15% underscores that technology needs human initiative to bridge effectively. These divides don't just exist. They grow when we miss chances for dialogue, pushing lives further into shadows where simple needs become daily battle. If an unforeseen event left you without shelter, what would be your first quiet step to seek help? Knowing such moments can arrive unexpectedly for anyone, this vulnerability gently calls us to foster empathy, strengthening bonds through shared humanity and small acts of inclusion. As the story builds, a meaningful insight awaits at the end. Stay tuned. If this resonates, like to connect, and subscribe to Homelessness Documentary for more heartfelt explorations. Pathways being sought amid deadlocks. Within Michigan's 2025 obstacles, where advancement occasionally halts, novel routes surface from group initiatives, forging passages through apparent stalemates with resolve and ingenuity. In Homelessness Documentary, we illuminate these developing answers, such as Holland's enhanced AI frameworks forecasting elevated risk zones with 88% precision, utilizing 2025 earnings and pattern info from regional housing bodies, aiding and channeling assets prior to escalations in a region adding nearly 22,000 residences in 2025 per state announcements, though necessity vastly surpasses. These instruments denote subtle advancements, converting info into forward-thinking actions, averting setups in susceptible locations. In Dearborn, a portable application has effectively connected 1,300 persons to accessible resting places this year solely, diminishing street duration by 35% per group effect documents. Whereas Traverse City's temporary asset gatherings contact 250 individuals per week with necessities like sustenance, employment guidance, and wellness assessments, resonating reactions to a 13% countrywide homelessness elevation in the 2025 Homelessness State Report from the National Alliance to End Homelessness. Flint's joint alliances have positioned 160 previously unsheltered dwellers into positions averaging $16 hourly via focused preparation schemes, promoting autonomy in a municipality, still maneuvering elevated destitution. Ann Arbor's academic-supported endeavors supply 110 interim lodging positions, merging learning and steadiness where regional tallies leaped 77% lately per Washtenaw County info. Muskegon's ex-service member-centered schemes reaccommodate 450 yearly, reducing delays to 40 days with optimized assistance. And Jackson's group assemblies, now 25 monthly, furnish areas to alleviate seclusion amid ascending requirements. Statewide funding advocates for lease limits and broadened coupons to prevent reversals, as Kalamazoo's digital instance oversight manages 350 instances distantly, enhancing aid reach. These aren't total resolutions, but directing illuminations, demonstrating how collaboration unlocks entrances in constricted areas. Households in Grand Rapids discover grounding via guidance, with youngsters acquiring instructors to span intervals during changes, displaying the personal aspect of these routes. If you discovered yourself in a impasse sans refuge, what preliminary silent extension would you chase? A prompt that such routes could unveil for anybody eventually. These endeavors articulate our group ability to innovate compassionately, cultivating optimism through united ventures. A metamorphosing termination resides forward. Continue. If motivated by these roots, like to endorse and subscribe to Homelessness Documentary to trail along. Conclusion and call to action. As this chapter of Michigan's story slows down, one truth becomes difficult to ignore. Homelessness is not a distant issue happening to other people. It is a condition created quietly, step by step, when systems strain and support arrives too late. The families we've followed are not defined by tents or numbers, but by ordinary moments, parents trying to keep routines intact, children asking questions adults don't always know how to answer, and individuals carrying the weight of uncertainty without knowing how long it will last. These are not isolated lives. They are reflections of how fragile stability can be for anyone. Imagine waking up each morning unsure where you'll sleep that night, or whether today is the day someone asks you to move on again. Imagine trying to stay hopeful while every option feels temporary. Many people living without stable housing don't ask for sympathy. They ask to be seen as human, not invisible. If circumstances shifted suddenly in your own life, who would you turn to? And how long could you manage before the ground gave way beneath you? This story is not about assigning fault. It is about recognizing shared responsibility. Homelessness grows where systems fail quietly and where empathy fades into distance. Small actions, listening without judgment, supporting local outreach, acknowledging the humanity in front of us, carry more weight than we often realize. Change doesn't always begin with policy. Sometimes it begins with awareness and the willingness to care. The story does not end when the camera turns away. Lives continue long after the credits would normally roll. What happens next depends on whether these realities remain visible or slip back into silence. There is still more ahead, moments that challenge assumptions and reveal how close many lives are to the edge. Staying until the final frame matters. If these stories moved you, let that feeling stay with you. A simple like helps this message travel further. Subscribing to Homelessness Documentary allows you to walk alongside these narratives as they continue, city by city, family by family. Not for shock, not for spectacle, but to ensure that people living through homelessness are not forgotten and that their voices remain part of the conversation we all share.